Good evening. I'd like to call the Stockbridge Board of Selectmen meeting to order on June 24th, 2021 at 6:31 p.m. First item on our agenda is electronic device usage during public meetings. And this has come up in a number of towns in eastern Massachusetts, and there is some concern because of the enormous use of electronic devices. There's been concern about violation of open meeting law. And so this is pertinent to board and committee members. So we want to ensure that meetings not be interrupted by distractions from electronic devices and to ensure full compliance with open meeting law. And first I'm going to read this because I will make a motion that we adopt a policy, but the policy would read, public meeting cell phone electronics usage policy. No board or committee member shall be allowed to have an electronic device on during any meeting with the exception of the host and or co-host or board/committee authorized presenter of a remote or joint in-person/remote meeting for the sole purpose of screen sharing specific information pertinent to agenda items for the benefit of the public, members of the body, and other meeting participants. During open public meetings in which there is no remote participation, board or committee members may not use electronic devices. Sorry, I have to reword this. No electronic devices will be allowed to be on and in use except for the sole purpose of displaying specific information pertinent to agenda items for the benefit of the public, members of the body, and other meeting participants. In addition, any board or committee member who wishes to participate remotely must do so pursuant to the requirements laid out in 940 CMR 29.10. Now, my only question about this is, does this still stand until the end of, does this stand now with the hybrid resolution they've made at the state level?
So normally that would be what you would do in your remote participation during the meeting. Right now, the governor has extended so boards can still be fully remote with everybody participating by Zoom. When that goes away, this would be the policy that would remain in effect for the town.
So that would be January 1st, 2022. So
can we just translate this into plain English? Can you tell me if I have it right? This applies to board members and committees that are appointed by this board. We are encouraging elected boards also to adopt it, but you set your own rules. That's one thing. Two, the gist of it is you can't text each other during meetings. It's against the law. You can't use the chat and Zoom during meetings. It's against the law. So where the policy is really around not engaging with electronic devices if you're on a board or committee during a meeting. Correct, right?
Right, during an open meeting.
Right. You would designate a host. So if you do pass this tonight, you should designate me as the co-host. I would be the one monitoring the chat and inform the board that there is a chat. Here's what it is.
Right.
And that, but that way they're not engaging with you guys during the meeting.
Right.
Works for me.
All right. So I make a motion to adopt the policy as read regarding open meetings and electronic device usage.
No second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Make a motion that Mike is the,
And
Michael, can you give us a roll call of who's on?
Yes. So we have CTSB TV, Lisa Bizzuto and Anita Schwerner.
and Anita, okay.
And Jason.
That's all that we have at this point of the meeting.
Thanks.
All right, I second the motion. All those in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, we didn't vote yet?
well, that's for making,
That's for
Need to be the co-host, so I have to be using my laptop.
Whatever I voted on, I support it.
All right, next on the agenda is the continuation of,
Anita has raised her hand, so I think she had a
Okay.
question in regard to.
Anita?
Yes, with regard, hi, Bercher, and
Hi.
others, about what you just passed. Could you say that people that are on Zoom could either use the chat or raise their hand, and Michael would be monitoring that? Is that correct?
So it's nothing to do with you. It only has to do with committee members.
Yeah, that's
you can
correct.
chat.
You raise your hand when you want to talk. Michael is the co-host for this meeting. That can be altered from meeting to meeting and board to board and committee to committee. So whoever is deemed as the co-host is typically monitoring who's come in on Zoom remotely and, who's, sent out a chat question or raised their hand to speak.
Right. So that's important for those of us on Zoom because sometimes it's overlooked. But also, is there a way for the people on Zoom to see who is in the audience in person? For example, when someone speaks who is there with you at the meeting,
Come up and sit with us.
will they still go to the microphone and identify themselves? Or they come and sit with you? Is that what you said?
Yes, in fact, we need to get the podium back in here. But for now, we're using a chair up here, so you will be able to see them. But it also applies to anyone who wants to speak, who's coming in remotely on Zoom. If you like to speak, typically you are identified because we see identification for you, Anita, we see your name. But some people are coming on just a phone number. And really, everyone who comes in to speak at an open meeting really should be identifying themselves before they speak.
I agree. And actually, would it be preferable? I should turn on my video when I speak. Is that preferable, even if my hair is a mess?
Well, we'd be happy to see you, but if you're having a bad hair day, I understand.
Thank you. Okay, thanks.
All right.
Police pen stink.
Okay, I'm missing where's the other one of these? You have it? Yeah. Okay. All righty, so the next on the agenda is the continuation of the hearing for the annual entertainment license application of Handcrafted Catering for events located at 2 Depot Street, owned by the Berkshire Scenic Railway Museum, Inc. So I move to open the continuation of the hearing on the annual entertainment license application of Handcrafted Catering for events located at 2 Depot Street, owned by the Berkshire Scenic Railway Museum, Inc. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Hi, Chuck.
Aye, Roxanne.
Hi, Patrick.
Justin, is Justin here?
I don't see Justin here. We have a
Can't
Treg
speak anywhere.
entering, but he's not connecting via audio.
That's Ken for Iceland.
Oh, that's Ken.
Hi, Ken.
Oh, Tree G. All right. That's,
It's Mr. Goo.
now he's going to try again. All right, so just proceed.
Okay, so do we leave it open?
No, I
Just
would
wait for
proceed.
him?
No, I would.
No.
Well, we'll proceed, but
Yeah.
is it still open? That's my question. If he does show up.
Yes,
Can we
he
go back
does.
to him?
Right.
Okay. All righty.
No,
The
I'm
hearing is
sorry.
closed, though.
The hearing's closed.
Deliberating.
You guys are making a deliberate and make a decision. You don't have to wait.
Okay,
Yeah,
Yeah, we closed the hearing last time.
yeah.
So
well, I know, that was my question though. Are we going to give him a few minutes? What time is it? He's-
That's up to you as chair. If you wish to move the agenda item back.
I mean, Ken has showed up. We could do Iceland now.
Right. Well, since the applicant is not present
well,
and we have a number of issues here, so,
I'll make a motion that we don't make a decision tonight.
Well, even though the applicant, the hearing's done.
Yeah.
All the information you're going to act on has been supplied. And
Right.
it's really your guys'
We can,
decision.
well,
So
correct me if I'm wrong, but we can add conditions.
but let me close the hearing first.
No, we already did.
Our hearing's already closed.
I didn't
Hearing was
close it.
closed. Yeah, we
last week.
closed it 2 weeks ago.
So basically, we can apply
we
conditions.
We
continued it.
continued the deliberation.
the
Oh,
open hearing is.
We are in the
that's
deliberation
not what I have in
phase.
front of me.
Yeah,
So that's why we can't ask him back and forth. We can only tell him the conditions under which we'll give him a permit if we do.
Okay, well, then we can deliberate and we can make a decision
Yep.
tonight.
Correct.
So, basically, we have an applicant who's failed to substantiate any parking plan. He has not provided us with a bona fide parking plan with details and measurements. And he has never provided us with a floor plan or a plan depicting the use of the outdoor space.
Yeah, no tenant locations, no
So we
that.
have no locations.
Plus, isn't there a discussion about using the indoors too?
Well,
Well, it's
apparently,
on
but
his
not with
application
us.
before you.
Application, but
So I move that we deny the application as presented for the following reasons. Basically, the applicant failed to substantiate the parking plan in accordance with the operational requirements. There is an off-street parking which shall be provided for the licensee's premises patron capacity at the rate of 1 parking space per 2.5 patrons. But what we have received has not indicated anything in any detail with any measurements. So we have no proof that there's actually adequate parking. And as I already mentioned, we haven't received, although we have requested more than once.
I'll second.
Wait, I also have an issue with potential outdoor amplification of music echoing very late into the night in that neighborhood. I don't know if that's something that you think, Michael, we're better off not addressing, but
I think you're better off addressing the deficiencies in the application as denial.
Yeah, because he hasn't done anything yet to provoke that, so.
Right.
I'll make a motion to deny I'll second the motion to deny the application.
All right, and we're denying the application based on the failure to substantiate a parking plan in accordance with the operational requirements and the failure to provide us with any floor plan or plan depicting the use of outdoor space.
but if he hears those deficiencies,
He has to reapply now.
He has to reapply.
You're denying the application because
We're
he failed
denying
to
the
provide them.
application based on the deficiencies
Let
in
him
the
reapply.
application.
well, sure.
All right, all those in, you have a second? Did you
I
second?
second it.
All right, all those in favor?
Hi, Patrick.
Hi,
Chuck.
Roxanne.
First time we ever refused. It's good though.
All right.
Okay. So next on the agenda,
Don't dare let's
take
pay
action on
steak.
a one-day alcohol license for Chesterwood Museum for an exhibit opening on July 9th, 2021 from 5 PM to 7 PM.
I make a motion, we accept that.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Take action on a one-day alcohol license for Bercher Botanical Gardens for is a number of dates. Fundraiser on July 3rd, 2021 from 5 PM to 8 PM. A rehearsal dinner on July 16th, 2021 from 4 PM to 11 PM. A wedding on July 17th, 2021 from 12 noon to 5 PM. Rehearsal dinner on July 23rd, 2021 from 5 PM to 10 PM. A wedding on July 25th, 2021 from 4 PM to 11 PM. And a wedding on July 30th, 2021 from 5 PM to 11 PM.
Can I just say, if I was the bride or the groom for that matter, and I wasn't getting a rehearsal dinner for the July 30th one, I'd be very upset. But having said that, I'll make a motion to grant.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And let's see, next is just an announcement of timing for the second homeowners discussion session, July 15th at 8 AM, which is our regular select board meeting. And it's the meeting in which we include our department heads.
So that's a Thursday.
That's a Thursday.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Perfect.
Okay.
That's for the meeting.
Everybody good with that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Alrighty, so next on the agenda is the Iceland discussion.
And you should sit up here so they can see you. Okay, do you have an extra copy to print out? I printed my own, so
There's one in front of you, so if you printed your own, just slide it over to,
there's one in front of me?
I put one in front of each of you.
Okay.
Oh, with the whole. Oh, that didn't print out then.
This,
I'll go.
Well, let's see, do I have, yeah, that's okay. I think
And I can quickly print that.
the
Does
whole
everybody need the
report.
whole thing?
I was thinking everyone would get the whole thing. Did you guys see the report from Ken Gooch?
I read it online, right? We had it.
Roxanne, do you want me to make?
Or you can just put it up on the screen so that, you know, if,
Do you have a copy or do you need a copy?
well, let me see if she's got a copy in here.
No, it only came in at 5 o'clock.
No, I need a
I'm not
copy.
that organized.
Quick time.
Okay, so just running down the list. Everybody, Ken Gooch from the guy who wrote the report for us, he used to be with the DCR, the head of Forest Health, I believe, is on the call. And you know Matt, chairman of the Agriculture and Forestry Commission. So we've done a couple things so far. We finished the report with Ken that outlines what some options are if we decide that we want to treat some or all of the trees. I believe, got an endorsement for that, as well as a recommendation from you guys to join the old growth tree network.
Can we slow down for a sec? So the very first part of the report said something about determination of treating all or some of the trees. What's the determination, or is that still pending?
So from what I understand from Ken, he looked at all the trees and graded them, good, fair, poor. And he found that there was only one tree that was rated good. 123 were rated fair and 226 were in poor condition. And from what I gathered from him in the report was that he was looking at the ones that were closest into the trail and in the cultural part of it where people are. And he was thinking of between 100 to 150 that are potential, possibly worth treating trees. And that's where the $700 or $73,000 dollar figure came based on their size.
Having said that, there's also there's two considerations. One, and we'll get this in, as I just run through this one-page thing. One, we may be able to raise some more money, and if we are able to do that, should we treat more? And the second question is the beetle and the woolly adelgid that are attacking the trees are both insects, and they're both terrible for the trees, but it's a slow death. It's not a fast death. If any of our 400-year-old ash trees, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think there's 38 of them, Ken, something like that. The animal ash borer eats around, not up and down. And so when it eats them, it kills the trees really fast. For some, God shine a light on Iceland, because these ancient trees, for some reason, even though there's emerald ash borer all around this area, those trees haven't been affected yet. And so when we talked yesterday, we talked about trying to really prioritize even early this summer, making sure that the preventive medicine, the preventive chemicals that we use on the ashes are treated right away, because it kills them so fast. And right now we don't. Ken, I don't know if you can say that any better than I said it.
Yeah.
Ken, are you there?
I think it was me. Sorry. I saw a chat.
No, but I saw Ken here earlier.
Oh, sorry. No, Ken dropped.
Oh,
So-
all right. Well, so the bottom line is that the cost to treat the ashes is less than $10,000. He thinks between 5 and 8. Okay, and I think that we should take his advice and try to save the 400 to 500-year-old ash trees right away, because once they get it, they're dead in a matter of months, because it cuts the sap flows up and down, and the bug eats like this.
So we're talking 38 ash trees?
Yeah. And that are some of the oldest known ones in New England.
About 5,000 to 8,000 to treat them.
Yeah, I mean, so we have the budget for it, and then we will figure out, and then we can't treat the hemlocks over the summer, it's too hot. For some reason, you have to treat them either in the spring or the fall.
The treatment is going to be absorbed through the bark of the trees.
Right.
So of course, we're not going to be spraying up in the canopy or anything like that. So the trees got to send that chemical up into where they're feeding. And we only get a few windows, either early spring or fall, where they're actually sending a lot of energy up there. So you guys apply it, so it sends it up, and then the adelgid and the scale will absorb it.
But the ash is injected. The treatment he's recommending for the ash trees is injected, not saturated.
Okay.
So,
Patrick, would you like any of these screen shared?
I think we're good for now. You know the details of, I was wondering about the counts on the trees, which is why I included the whole report here. So I think the first thing we should do is, I think we should decide if we're going to treat the trees.
Oh, yeah, we got the money to do it.
I understand, but I'm giving everyone a chance to discuss, if you want, whether or not we're going forward with treatment. I know that we've heard not only from the people at town meeting, but others in town who've expressed concern that is frankly legitimate around pesticide use and its negative
But it was
impacts.
voted on at town meeting to.
I'm totally for this project, don't worry.
The trees, so you can't say no now, it's.
Right, we have to move forward.
Yeah.
The concerns, I agree with you, the concerns are legitimate, and some of those concerns are what's going to be the impact on, let's say, other insects. And there's some concern apparently about porcupines, because porcupines do eat hemlock bark.
Not this bark. Oh, bark.
Bark. So that I think is what Ken talked to, is the reason he chose this particular treatment, because they're feeding up higher in, and usually they feed on the more tender, like the branch, the far limbs, where it's nice and tender. Where we would be applying it would be down low, basically at the base of the trunk. So any absorption into mammals, from what we can tell and what we understand about the chemical, is minimum to none. So it's a low chance that, unless they are there that day when there is the spraying is happening on the bark, that they wouldn't come in contact with it, to the best of our knowledge.
Okay, and then the other concern that I have is, when are we going to put together a more comprehensive long-range plan in terms of managing the forest?
Well,
And, you know, what are the various other steps that we're going to have to take to ensure that eventually some of these hemlocks are going to die, no matter what we do. And so we have to make sure that we have the younger hemlocks able to come up and take their place.
So I think that really nails it on the head, is that this is, in my take on this, is a first step. This is just to buy us time so we can come up with a significant plan that will be as great as the forest is.
Are we going to introduce the natural predators?
Well, I think that's part of this whole process, is that this is going to buy us time so that we can have a forester come in and make a recommendation for that. The biggest issue we have is that it's a small, quote unquote, small area. So for them to prioritize it, we have to work with other partners to make sure that we are saying, like, we have a bigger area around that we're going to help.
If you look at the amount of acres that Beartown has, the state of Massachusetts owns at Beartown, and you look at the amount of acres that Laurel Hill has, and I understand so Laurel Hill may not want to be a participant in this project, and I respect that. But that is actually the entire side of a mountain full of these same ancient hemlocks that we have, though for some reason I think it has to do with the gorge and the inaccessibility of it. Our hemlocks are the oldest on that mountain, but we're going to have the same problem on that whole range.
But I think to your point is that this is just going to be the first step in making a longer plan. Because to our best knowledge is that we're going to have in the next 40 years the climate that's more like the mid-Atlantic. And so for that being said, is we have to make a plan, because a lot of these trees are migrating north. So a lot of these trees are going to have a lot more struggles. And because we don't have a hard winter anymore to kill the woolly adelgid, which that's what we used to have, and that's what kept us as a boundary, it's going to be a problem moving forward. So I think that's what the commission will be looking at, and further down on your list, we were talking about suppression funding and more funding. This will hopefully we can use as a matching and showing that we value the trees in other grants moving forward.
And then there's all sorts of research on, hi Ken. We're doing our best to explain stuff that you're an expert at. So
He's still trying to connect. And I think he's in now.
So please feel free to correct us if you hear anything that seems inaccurate. But the bottom line, I think, is that we're looking at triage here with every intention of moving beyond triage once we get past September. This just getting through the point where we are doing the grants on October 1st. We're talking about an RFP and a treatment plan and writing grants at the state and federal level and, maybe trying to do some fundraising. That's what this basically one page talks about. If we can get all this work done in the next 90 days, basically, I will be an incredibly happy camper. And then I would love the idea of, like, as my friend Laura says, many hands make light work. And if these guys want to take on the long range planning of all this, I'm all for it because I think we're going to need it.
Well, they're the appropriate group to do so.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
So when does the ash trees get treated now? I mean, it's.
And we talked about this yesterday, about what do you think the plan should be for the ash trees?
I think you should probably treat them sooner rather than later. Now's a good
What does that
time.
specifically mean?
What's that?
Does that mean now or when? What is sooner rather than later?
Well, you need to have leaves on the trees and you have a lot of emerald ash borer in the surrounding area. So
No,
those
but
trees.
I'm asking, can we treat them right now?
Yes,
Have to treat it first.
Well, I mean, okay. Yeah. So, I think that one of the things we want to do, and we talked about whether we should do 2 of RFPs or 1. The one advantage of doing 1 is that ash trees are a relatively small project. And if we're going to try to do it right away, maybe we break that out and we figure out a way to do it.
Well, if
Under
it's,
10.
if it's under 10, it doesn't have to go out at all. If it's over 10 and between 10 and 50, you have to get 3 written
I
quotes.
missed the beginning of what you said.
Okay.
Slow down a little bit. I'm sorry.
Caffeine, and it's my being, so I'll try to. So what part did you miss?
The very beginning,
The ash trees is 38 of them. And it's
right,
a 2-day project to treat them.
Okay.
And it probably, correct me if I'm wrong, Ken, less than a $10,000 project just to do the ash trees.
okay.
I figured it's going to be around 65 to 7,000, 6,500 to
So
7,000.
we do not have to go out to bid on
All
that.
right.
So I'll make a motion that we do the ash trees as soon as possible after the July 1st
After
date.
July 1st, I'll second.
Right.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So now, Ken, what is the ash treatment's an injection?
Yep, it's a stem injection at the base of the tree. It's 5 milliliters per injection site. So you take the diameter, you divide it in half, and that's how many injection sites are put into the tree.
Okay. And is that going to minimize the ability for obviously because you're putting it into the tree, there's less contact between the pesticide and the exterior world, right?
There's no contact unless you spill it somehow, but
I'm just pointing out to the folks who don't like pesticides that this is an awesome solution because it's that targeted, because it's going up into the tree via injection. That was right. Okay, good. So can Michael and I work offline to figure out whether it's Ken or some other appropriate, somebody who's licensed to do this, would choose a vendor, or do you want to be involved in the vendor?
Now that you've moved it to the next process, right, we could just move.
All right.
Like
I was
if,
wondering if they want to be involved in vendors.
well, if it's under 10,000, then we don't even have to, we can just contract direct.
Okay.
Don't have to solicit quotes. We don't have anything.
Excellent. Okay. So, then what we're going to need to work on is, Ken, you're going to get us a copy of the state's RFQ, RFP, whatever it's called, the request for proposal document for us to edit and get out there for the hemlocks. So the scope of the work in the hemlocks will obviously just be, for them. And we just did the third one there. All right. So I printed out, when I talked to Tom Ryan from DCR, he gave me links which are in the packet for both the, $900 or $1,000 for the forward stewardship plan and the 75%, 25% match that DCR has for these sorts of programs. The 75-25 match requires us to have a forest stewardship plan in place. So I don't know if we need to have a different forester write the $900 plan, Ken, or if we can take what you wrote for us and somehow modify it into something that is considered appropriate for a stewardship plan. But the reason I'm asking is we can't apply for the state money until we have a stewardship plan in place. As you probably know, you work for the
yeah,
state.
you have to have a licensed forester. I'm not a licensed forester, do a forest stewardship plan.
Okay,
So I don't know if you remember Mike Morey, who came out on the initial walk.
yeah.
He's a licensed forester. He would be a good choice to have.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we have one we've used on others, right?
Right. Water and sewer uses their,
Okay, so,
License plate.
so on our list, and I think this is for you guys, is that we've got the reason why getting this plan done quickly is we can't apply for this, the 75% of like 100 grand is what, 75 grand? We can't apply for that money for like, you know, the follow-up treatments until we have it's a prerequisite for the state. And all those forms are in the packet, and you can have this separate.
well, the big question here is, I mean, I understand the urgency of wanting to get that so you can apply for grants. On the other hand, is this going to be like a living document that you can then modify based on, they do take their time and they do look at all the other alternatives that we would have that they might want to include in a plan.
Right.
Yeah,
Is that possible? So you start out with a boilerplate.
Yeah, and you know, and I'm torn, because you're making excellent points. I'm torn between sort of like looking at a project that all in over the next several years could be several $100,000 and trying to get as much funding from as many sources as we can for that. So the reason I have urgency on this is frankly a tool to get funding from my perspective. It's also a great tool to help us manage things, which is which is why you're supposed to do a stewardship plan. I am really a practical guy when it comes to this stuff, which is I'm looking at all the places we can raise money, and I don't want to rule any out. And this is a prerequisite. So as long as we can make it as comprehensive as we want, I just don't want to take 6 months or a year to get it done.
Well, to that point too, and I just want to make sure to address your point, is because it's an old growth forest too, and I don't know this personally, but I'd like to look into it to make sure, is I do not want to also say that it's just any old forest to come in, because it is not just any old forest, you know. So to that extent, making sure that maybe with Ken's recommendation, we can find someone who really is knowledgeable about old growth, because the whole point of old growth is that they're unmanaged in their essence, because they are, well, they were hard to log back in the day, and that's why they end up continuing on. So I just want to make sure that we are, maybe if Ken can give some recommendations to a forester that has experience managing.
And Laurel Hill has also used a forester that I think is very knowledgeable about old growth forests. So I would check with Laurel Hill and see what names they have.
I get coverage from it.
Yeah. Because I think that this will be the start of a long-term plan.
Right.
Yeah,
So
an overnight thing.
So the one takeaway though is I think that somebody should find out, I don't know if it's a rolling deadline, and Ken, you may know the answer to this, but the DCR grants, those made on an annual basis? Are they made when is it a rolling process or open all the time? How do the DCR 75-25, stewardship grants go?
They are done once a year. I'm not sure of the stewardship grants. I know suppression funding grants you have to apply by October. The stewardship, I don't know the deadline for that, but it is once a year.
All right, so we might want to just find that out, because even if draft one you can't apply for that unless you have a stewardship plan in place. So even if just draft one is done by then, I'm happy. Then draft 1A can be whatever we want it to be for the long term, but I just don't want to miss the deadline to apply. So,
Right. One thing I would ask though is that as you're applying for grants, obviously Michael has to be completely involved in this.
Oh my God, he's right now.
And
you guys are.
we as the board are notified in select board meetings, so the public are aware and we are aware of what's happening.
Yeah.
No, I'm pretty good at websites. Grants, I don't have a lot of experience with, just, And I applied for one but it didn't even go that well, as I remember. So I'm totally okay with that, yes. Okay. So let's see, these guys have also recommended, I say these guys, Lisa's on the call, these are fine men and women of our Agriculture and Forestry Commission have also recommended we join the Old Growth Forest Network, I think it's called.
So Patrick, before you move on to that, I had a question about the suppression funding. And Ken, you may be able to help with this. When I spoke with Nicole, she said suppression funding was very rarely awarded to towns. And she really strongly recommended that we join with either BNRC, the Tree Warden Association, or the trustees and make it a bigger application And I'm not sure how the select board felt about that. If you want to keep it small and hope for the best, or go by what she was recommending. It would certainly be,
Well, I would disagree with what you said, at least from my experience when I was there, because a lot of towns got suppression funding and it was administered through other states, not Massachusetts. So Massachusetts never, we never applied for suppression funding before because we never really had the issue with the delegate or elongated scale that this is the future. We are now the leading edge for this. So I think she needs to do more research on that because I know other states in Connecticut, New York, Delaware, all south of us, towns were, and I talked directly with Dave Mauzell about that. So I can do some more research on that.
okay. I mean, my preference would be that we don't make it any bigger. But
Yeah.
I wanted people to be aware of what she said. So she
Can you
did
explain
also,
what this is?
What?
Is this suppression
The
funding?
suppression funding is to suppress the insects. It's a
Is this a federal
state and
program?
federal grants. There's a friend of Ken's from Massachusetts is now running, I believe, the federal entomology grant program or something out of Wisconsin.
Yeah,
You know,
he's the
we have
forest
an insight.
entomologist for the east.
Yeah,
Eastern
so
part of the country.
we're planning on, you taking advantage of the Massachusetts connection, hopefully, and making a case for it. And once again, DCR has funding available at the state level for these. It's in the packet. It's the form in the packet for the Community Forest Stewardship Grant Program. Basically, you can use it to.
It's in here?
Yeah, it's this one right here. You can use it to implement your forest stewardship plan, which is why it's really important that these issues get into our plan, so that we can, then go and say, we need the money for this. Is it?
she did also add that once we have the application ready, to send it to her directly, so she could look it over and make sure that we have a good shot.
And then, I think that there's a lot of competition for these grants. The thing that we have, our competitive edge, is that we have Bob Leverett from the Old Growth Tree Network, who's willing to stand up there and say, you've got the biggest, tallest hemlocks in New England, and you've got the greatest shagbark hickory in New England. And there's a lot of unbelievable, jaw-dropping. Bob Leverett is, I think, our secret weapon, because he's the guy that can differentiate our forest for all the other ones who might be applying for this money. And that's why I think that a prior select board wanted to be cautious about not having too much traffic in Iceland. And the reason they didn't want to designate it was because they thought it would help promote it. And I think that is a legitimate concern that a prior board had, but that this board should embrace the idea of being first among many in the old growth forest world, because I think it helps us compete and win for grants.
So if I can speak to that just a minute, Patrick.
Sure.
Sarah with the Old Growth Forest Network, and I raised that concern because I knew it was a concern from the previous select board. And she said, according to the director, the average increase is 10 people a year. Places that actually look at the numbers. She said it's really a network of people that revere old growth forests. It doesn't get a lot of publicity. It's not, it's not Disneyland, and the increase is minimal.
I'm not worried about it at all. I don't,
Well,
but.
I mean, I can tell you that I'm not worried about the old growth forest designation at all, because I agree, I don't think it's going to attract that many more people. However, I think we need to be very concerned about the amount of traffic that is going through there, because those paths used to be footpaths. They are now highways. And there has been, at least during COVID, there was an enormous amount of trash being cast aside.
Okay.
So I think that's something we can take up at a later time in terms of, how do we address that situation?
Maintain it.
Yeah. Well, also, it's not good for the roots of the trees either. I mean, let's face it, when you wear down a path, you expose the roots, and that's a terrible, terrible thing for the
Right,
trees.
but I think that's the topic that
I mean, once again, Ken, you might have some ideas from your state experience on how we manage foot traffic and paths to protect the trees that are so close to the paths.
You either try to move the path away from the roots of the trees, or you start putting loads of wood chips down which breaks up the compaction. So on a lot of the trails that DCR had, you know, if we knew there was a lot of compaction, which was affecting trees, we started bringing in wood chips. That lessens compaction.
I mean, that's not, I think that this is an issue where our plate's going to be so full in the next 90 days, but I do think this is a legitimate concern. And that we should really have, that this should be part of our plan.
Well, I was going to say, this is an issue that we bring up in our plan because I think as you see migration due to COVID or any other natural disaster, which we always end up getting, people were flocking to the woods to get outside. And I think that's something we could address in the plan, saying that we need to analyze the way the path goes and how to steer people and keep them on the path so they're not widening it.
Right.
Yeah.
And following the rules and regulations.
So no trash.
Those signs go up, that may help. And maybe limiting, you know, you may want to stop access from Iceland Road.
Yeah.
So I bet, well, that's another.
Yeah.
Do we know, Patrick, how long a forest stewardship plan takes to develop?
I think,
That's a good question.
don't know. I don't know for sure, but Ken would know. I don't know.
It depends on the forester that you have and what you want to put in the plan.
It's only $1,000 grant. It can't take that long.
Yeah.
That's true.
I just mean consultants.
Trying to line up the timing. Yeah.
I think it's like a couple of days of onsite and then they write a report. Am I wrong?
No, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Okay. So then the last thing that I wrote up was sort of a funding plan. And this is really around, you know, let me just preface by saying we're going to have this times 20 when it comes to dredging. And I think this gives us a good dry run of how we start to figure out ways for the community to support some of these efforts. Because I think that this is going to be too expensive for the small town of Stockbridge to deal with. So, you know, we certainly have, we talked about the state and the federal part, you know, on this one, but I also think that there's really a private fundraising opportunity. And I think in a town that's small Stockbridge, it's really quite easy for us to do a direct mail campaign to everybody. If we recognize the name, how we used to do Laurel Hill, which is very effective, is that the board member who knew the person the best would write a personal note on the envelope or on the letter and say, yeah, this is something we're doing. And I'm happy to do all this work, but this is something I kind of know a little bit about. And I would like us to start to create a little endowment in our gift account so that if we notice a problem, that we have some cash that is unencumbered, that we're able to address this as we come up with a long-term plan or whatever. You know, I think there's a lot of folks who've indicated to me that this is something they would support. And I think that this is something that, you know, that's going to be an important part of this.
Well, I have a question. I mean, I'm kind of curious. I don't really think that we necessarily need to do a direct mail campaign based on the fact that you pretty much talk to everybody in town all the time. You know, I don't know that we need to spend the money on that. I think that we can certainly do something on the website and there are other means to do it. We can do posters. We can do, you know, one of these, you know, thermometer things. I mean, there's all kinds of different ways to do it. So I think maybe that should be another discussion on another day on how you want to approach it.
Okay.
And I don't know, have we set up that gift account yet? That was.
Yeah, we're establishing an Iceland gift account. We received a donation
Right.
for
So
the.
it exists.
we got a donation, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's like, okay, we have to set
And that
up
was
the account.
specifically posted. That was specifically so that we would have some money to do whatever it is that we wanted to do if there was an expense to it. So we'd have a little bit in the kitty. So, okay. So whatever we can talk about this another day.
As far as unencumbered, I'm not sure what your gift accounts are donated and the money can be used for that particular purpose. So.
I meant that we don't have to go to a reserve fund transfer or, you know.
Oh,
The reason I mean,
Yeah, the
this
gift
money that
account-
we can put on this, if we notice there's a tree that is sick all of a sudden,
Yes.
we can get somebody in to treat it.
Yeah.
So we're talking about in the summer, like $6,500 to $7,000 to get started. And we have some time here because we have 70,000 coming in.
But the public, you know, getting it on combines and all that stuff and writing the RFQ, Michael and I were a little bit concerned that the September deadline is fast approaching on the part that we have to
But I
competitively.
think I thought the discussion here was already to proceed with an RFP. or not
Yeah,
RFP.
it's just that we have a lot of time, but we have just enough time in my mind.
Right.
Right,
You know, yeah.
right. But that doesn't affect your fundraising. I mean, that can all move forward without having to raise more money right now. In other words, you got some time to raise this money.
We do, but, there's a strike while the iron hot, you know.
I'm not saying slow down. I'm saying we can go full speed ahead right now. I don't think you have to worry about that.
No, but the 73,000.
Anxious about something that you maybe
Look,
don't have.
you take, we have 73,000, you take 8,000 out for the ashes. Yeah, you got 65,000. I think that, I did the math a couple months ago, but maybe correct me if I'm wrong. I think we're looking at maybe $300 to $400 per tree. So at 60,000, that's, 400 into 60,000 is 100, about 150 trees. And there's 400 trees that he GPSed up there. So, and many of them, there's more than 150 that are in poor condition. So
Right.
I'm just saying
However,
that.
I thought that the recommendation was to treat 100 to 150 trees.
If I can raise an extra 50 grand, I want to treat as many as we can. They're going to die otherwise, and the cost to take them out is ginormous.
Well, and I think to your point, if I may interject, sorry, but also part of this is the monitoring and understanding of what trees truly need are, because we have an estimate. I haven't walked up there in a long time with experts like Ken or anything, but understanding is hopefully when we do put this out, they can judge and make a recommendation of what the crucial trees are. Because I think, I don't know how far and wide Ken went. I know I saw the dots on the map, but some of those trees might be really far back in the woods. And whether up the gorge and far back, someone comes in, might make a different recommendation.
Right.
But, I just want to make sure we're not spraying 450 trees for the sake of spraying 450 trees. Because
Right.
at the end of the day, we could spray the whole forest and it wouldn't,
And the other thing that would concern me is, there's some controversy surrounding this. And we've had the voters approve the allocation of $70,000. You want to keep that support. So I think that, moving forward, I think to be responsible, it's like get good value for your money, make sure that, we've got the best advice we can get. We move forward, but this can be a continuing process. And so we can go to town meeting again.
But let me just ask, all right, so how many trees are on the poor list?
226, I believe.
26. Okay. So, and those are predominantly on both sides of the gorge, right? They're actually up the side ice climb, okay, which is incredibly steep slope. All right. My concern is not about, of course I want to save all the trees if we can save all the trees. My concern is what happens if you start this. There's really two issues here. You not only have the cost of removing, if we were to see a net of 100 trees that were in poor condition die on those slopes, then you've got root systems they're protecting from erosion on something that's 30 or 40 degree angle. It could be really disastrous to have even 50 or 100 trees up on the steep part of that slope, die. All right. So
I have a question for Ken. What are the triage criteria when you're looking at these trees in fair and poor condition? What kind of things do you take into consideration when you triage those and you decide, well, these need to be immediately dealt with and some of these maybe can wait?
So the Forest Service developed this monitoring method. It's called transparency. It's the amount of light that comes through the foliage. And when you start getting above 30% transparency, then that tree's in trouble. And sometimes if it gets above 50%, then the chances of it coming back are slim, of it recovering, even if you're treating it with a pesticide. So you have some trees that are up close to 50%, and those are mainly on the steep slopes that surround the gorge. So if you lost those trees, they are a hazard to hikers that are going through the gorge. And those are the ones that need to be treated immediately. So in terms of triage, I'd say, you know, and there might be 100 trees that you definitely need to treat this year or sooner rather than later, because they're just in a bad, they're high transparency. They're in a bad location in terms of public safety if they do die. And I'll just throw out one more thing. If you ever get a chance, go to Purgatory Chasm in Sutton, Mass, which is the same. It's a dry canyon, kind of just like Ice Glen, that the state, before my time, decided not to do anything. And we end up spending well over $100,000, maybe $150,000, multiple times to go in and take the trees out because we waited too long to treat them.
Okay, so you're saying there's 100 that are in that steep area of the gorge.
They need to be treated right away.
They need to be treated right away.
That
And
would
those
be
are
my
all,
recommendation.
okay, and they're all in poor condition, clearly.
Yeah.
Are there any others that come into maybe the next tier of triage that
Yep,
you feel
there's-
should be treated?
The ones that have, more back away from the steep slopes because they have a better root system, they're healthier. They have high levels of adelgid, high levels of scale, but they, you can, I guess I'd have to show you out there, but you can tell like the majority of the ones that are in poor condition are on the steeper slopes. Small root system, they're just heavily infested. But the, farther away back in, and I did go back a little ways, above the slope where it starts to level off, just because there's significant, I think some of the old growth is back further away from the gorge. That's where some of the significant hemlocks are. And that's what Bob Leverett told me too. It's like not all the old growth is in the gorge. It's actually farther back away and to lose some of that old growth. So I did go farther back.
All right.
Okay, so your suggestion would be definitely to do these 100 that you feel are in imminent danger. And then how many additional over and above that 100 that are back farther?
Unfortunately, I didn't print out the list in front of me here.
Can you share that? It's on my, it's in that document I sent.
Iceland,
Yeah, it's,
Report.
around page,
it's this healthy tree report, right? Iceland Tree Report 2021.
well, it's, I made a binder. The thing I did send you today has his report in it. It's a PDF. It's 35 pages long.
Well, there's a summary that I did with all the DBH and all the conditions, a one-page summary.
It's this one right here, right? Ken, I don't know if you can see us. It has no, of course you can't.
it was a
The one that has just the trees in it. Yeah.
Okay, the spreadsheet.
Well, it's just a one-page summary that had all the DBH, that had the conditions and,
Right.
The one that you sent me.
Yeah, I don't know if
That's why I'm,
So basically, we have X amount of money, about 60 something thousand. So the recommendation would be to start from the path and work into the woods, correct?
yeah, I mean, I'm perfectly willing to go out there and point out the trees that need to be treated. If you-
Well, I think to,
So instead of, just beating us to death,
well,
let's figure out
Right.
so there, yeah.
what money we got, how many trees you can do, pick out the trees and move forward.
Well, and I think to Ken's point too, is that, and to what I was going back earlier with having a good forester and having someone who knows old growth, because I think Ken's also pointing out that there are some significant trees that to me or you are just trees, but to someone other's eyes, that's a 400 or 500-year-old tree that are further set back.
Yeah.
So there's 100 that are right along that you could say are the functional trees, to put it into terms. Then there's the culturally significant trees that might just be farther back that we don't notice because they're so far off the path, no one ever goes near them. But it sounds like Ken could potentially help.
But
identify.
round two treatment could well happen. It has to happen in the spring or in the fall. And we might, by the time we get to next spring, we might recognize that there's another 50 trees we need to treat. None of these grants are sure things. And I just think we should, if we have funding sources, we should try to pursue as many sources as we can, because that gives us more flexibility. We don't have to spend the money, but we certainly might want to have some more options just in case, you know, all the best laid plans don't work out in terms of.
I don't think anyone's disagreeing with you here.
Well,
We're in
why,
agreement that yes, you go after all the funding you can get.
go after the funding, but the money we have right now, we got to decide what trees.
Yeah.
Right. No, I'm talking
And so I'm not
about a
only-
mailer.
But I, okay.
You take
but
care of
I'm-
the fundraising.
All right, if you guys don't mind, I would like to do the fundraising.
But right as of tonight, we just got to figure out,
Well,
out there, pick the trees we got to do.
yeah,
Somehow, you know, map them on the mark, whatever, on the map, something like that. So comes fall, we're ready to go.
yeah.
Right,
The ash trees are taken care of, we're done with that, that's off the table. So with the money we have now, we got to figure out how many trees you can do and what trees has to be done.
right. Because I'm not only worried about these 100 or so
Yeah.
around the
Then we
steep
gotta
slope. I'm worried
move forward,
also
but-
about,
Right. I don't think we want to be chasing our tails for.
Because right now, we have X amount of money to do
Let's
X amount
do
of
what we
work.
can
Let's
do.
get that done.
Yep.
let the expert mark the trees.
So for us, what'll happen is as we develop the RFP, the next meeting or two, so the next meeting on the 8th, we should be identifying the priority. And what we'll do is do them in addendums to the RFP where we'll list, here are our priority ones, identify, say, 100 trees. Then we're going to say the following are our next addendum 1, addendum 2, addendum 3. Based on what comes in for the pricing, we would then say, okay, we can only do the main one with 100, but we can do addendum 1 and 2 also. Or maybe we can only do addendum 1, or maybe by the time we go out to bid, we can only do just the main 100. But we could set up the RFP so that we structure it in a way that we can maximize. And then, Patrick, if you've raised some extra money by then, and there's another
fundraising, but you guys focus on the triage plan and what trees we're gonna treat.
Yeah.
Because we have enough expertise in the room that, you know,
The other
the people
thing
who
is-
learned what a tree was 3 months ago don't need to be involved in choosing the tree.
Don't we need to vote on whether or not we want to put in the paperwork for Old Growth Forest Network?
Is that something
Yeah, that's something.
we can do? Is that something to be done at town meeting? Is that something that the
Yeah, we
select
can.
board can do?
I think so, the select board can.
I would think,
Well, the last select board denied it, how come we can't
Yeah.
approve it?
I mean, that's for, that's why I make sure it's legal. That's
Solid logic.
no,
Before you vote on it, just know there is a requirement to sign a memorandum of agreement saying the trees would not be cut for commercial logging.
Oh, yeah, I read that. That's
Not a
everything I'm
problem.
hearing. It's open to the public, it's there, we're gonna take care of it. There won't
I do
be
have a very nice house that, you know.
any logging whatsoever.
right. Yeah, and typically the
Somehow it does have new roof.
select board could enter into a memorandum of
Okay,
understanding.
I'll make a motion that we enter into the,
All right, second.
Okay, we both second.
Third, I third it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
anything to help that place out. Anything about those,
Yeah,
I mean,
You guys
that's a
want
beautiful
to-
piece of property.
So you've authorized us to enter the, do you want me to work with the Agricultural and Forestry Commission, whatever paperwork needs to be done as far as that?
yeah, we'll designate you.
So being the 4th is on a Monday, when's your next meeting? Does that keep,
July 12th is our next meeting.
I got to send me the notifications for that, because I always forget.
Oh, yeah.
Then-
Make sure you go.
And that's pretty good, because if you guys meet on the 12th, and then by the 15th, we're gonna need to finalize the RFP and have it out with a return. So it's gonna be tight.
And so I'm gonna sort of back away from everything that has to do with this project, except the sort of PR and fundraising part. Because obviously Chuck is the designee from the select board. So, and I am so comfortable just hearing everybody talk today about how on top of it all you guys are. So, you know, Ken is gonna send me, I believe, the sample RFP, and I'll just forward that to you guys. And I wouldn't mind reviewing it before it actually goes out, but I'm
Oh, yeah.
totally okay with you guys,
Yeah.
you know.
Yep.
I really appreciate it.
Maybe we can try to throw together a draft and then identify the addendums, use the 12th meeting to identify.
Yeah.
Because I'll be honest, similar, I can do the legal requirements of the RFP, but the technical aspects, we need.
Well, Ken will tell you, I was like, we were walking up Iceland, I said, Ken, what kind of tree is this? And he goes, that's a sugar maple.
They're okay. They're good.
I was like, okay, yeah, I knew that. I was testing you.
Ken, while you're there, are you available on July 12th?
You can stop this year.
I could be, I won't be in state, but I could get online.
Online.
Yep.
I'll send you an email.
And you willing to pick the 100 trees for the first round?
Yeah.
I think, yeah, we'll go off his report
Yeah.
and the rest, yeah.
So
I just did a little bit of figuring and I was talking with Nicole the other day about the average price coming in because the state is actually treating now on the hemlocks and some of their property. And the price, like the low price they got for doing basil bark spray was $10 a DBH inch.
wait,
Every time you turn away, we can't hear you.
Oh, okay. You had 4,867 inches in the poor category and per inch, so that's $48,670.
and $10.
That leaves another 20,000, so,
Yeah,
so we can,
good.
All right.
good. We keep doing more.
And what about the, all right. Okay, good. That's great.
Okay, so we're,
The only other question is for the board, if you'd like the commission to also make a recommendation on Forester. We talked about that earlier. Just wanted to make sure that that gets on there if we have names for writing the stewardship plan.
Okay.
Does that sound good?
Yeah, I think a recommendation, if you guys make a recommendation on the 12th,
By the 12th, okay.
we'll put it on the agenda for the select board for the 15th to approve and from there. So we can line that all up.
So since you're here, when are we getting a farmer's market?
That's right.
we're gonna talk about that.
I know, yes, I'm hearing it from a lot of places, so.
I know somebody who works in an organic farm. I'm just saying.
We're doing a lot of tree stuff. We're gonna get agricultural pretty soon.
I thought the agriculture was first.
All right, so.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ken. I really appreciate your time on short notice. Thank you, Eric. Thank you.
Eric.
Thank you,
wherever
Anita.
he is, we can't see you, Eric.
And I'll be on Zoom for the next meeting.
For me. Go
All
ahead.
right, we got a plan.
All right,
Thank you, guys.
anything else that came up at the last minute that either one of you wanted
Do
to
you have
talk
1 minute
about?
after?
In general,
Or does someone want
it's
to?
on your job. No, I think we're good. I think,
That's a good meeting.
So,
when do you know when the Concom is going to have the organizations written?
No, I don't know. When they're done, and then it's the 10-day appeal process.
Ask them daily.
oh, they've been prodded.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, good.
prodding has happened. So I move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in
Third.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned at whatever time it is, 7:34.
Do you want any of these printouts, Matt?